Before the bowls ever reach the counter, the day at this street stall begins with a rhythm of knives, steam, and quiet preparation. A soft, dark block meets a heavy cleaver on a worn wooden board, and that first cut hints at everything that will follow. Around this small cooking station, every ingredient moves through careful hands before it ever touches the broth. By the time the pot starts rolling, dozens of little steps have already set the stage for a bowl that feels far bigger than the stall that makes it. The opening scene is all about texture and patience. A dense, dark reddish block rests on a round wooden chopping board that has clearly seen years of use. The cook steadies it with one hand and brings down a broad cleaver with controlled pressure. Instead of rushing, the blade presses through the soft surface in deliberate strokes, dividing the block into thick segments. Each slice reveals a slightly glossy interior, and the pieces hold their shape just enough to be cut again. Soon, the large slab becomes neat cube-like sections, and the cook nudges them aside into a tidy pile. Those cubes are gathered and dropped into a white plastic basket already filled with similar pieces. The basket tells its own story. This ingredient is prepared in batches, cut again and again until there are enough to last through a busy stretch of customers. Nothing flashy here. Just repetition and steady hands building the base of the stall's ingredients. Just a few steps away stands the heart of the operation. A young vendor in a white off-shoulder dress patterned with small dots works beside a wide metal pot set over a burner. She leans toward the pot with a long utensil and begins stirring slowly. Steam rises in thin clouds that drift toward the open street. Behind her, traffic moves past storefronts and sidewalks, but inside this tiny cooking space, the focus stays entirely on the pot. The stirring is gentle at first, almost like checking the temperature of the broth. Street stalls often rely on large pots that stay active for hours, sometimes the entire day, gradually developing deeper flavor as ingredients come and go. She shifts her stance slightly, glancing down into the pot, while keeping the ladle moving in slow circles. On the counter nearby, bottles of sauces and seasonings wait in a row. One bottle with a bright orange label is lifted and turned slowly in a hand, its front and back shown clearly. At many stalls like this, these condiments shape the final character of a dish. Some customers prefer a richer taste, others want a sharper note, and the vendor keeps several options within reach. Now attention returns to the drink counter beside the cooking station. A plastic cup sits on the orange surface while the vendor tilts a bottle and pours a measured stream of liquid into it. The motion is calm and practiced. She steadies the cup with one hand and uses a long utensil to stir the mixture, rotating her wrist in small circles until the drink blends evenly. It is a small side task, yet it shows how a single vendor often manages several roles at once: drinks, soup, toppings, and final bowls all moving together. Back at the stove, the big pot receives more liquid from a clear container. The pour is steady and controlled, and the broth inside responds immediately with a deeper simmer. Another small container follows with a shorter addition, almost like seasoning the base layer. Steam thickens as the liquid mixes with what is already inside. The ladle returns to the pot. She stirs again, this time slightly faster, drawing ingredients upward from the bottom and letting them settle back into the broth. Every rotation spreads the heat and distributes flavor through the mixture. Next comes a plastic bag filled with chopped ingredients, briefly held toward the camera as if to show what will join the soup. These small previews are common at open street kitchens. Customers like seeing exactly what goes into their food. Then a much larger bag appears, heavy with raw chicken pieces. The vendor lifts it above the pot and tips the opening downward. One by one, pale pieces slide from the plastic and disappear into the rolling steam. As the last pieces fall in, the bag collapses slightly in her grip, now empty. The pot responds with louder bubbling, the surface shifting as the new ingredients settle. Another large bag follows soon after, this time filled with small seafood pieces. She carries it to the stove and tilts it over the pot. The contents spill out in a steady rush, joining the chicken already cooking below the surface. Immediately, the long-handled skimmer dips into the broth, sweeping through the pot and moving the seafood around so everything cooks evenly. Away from the stove, preparation continues at a small table. A large cabbage sits on a thick, round chopping block. The knife returns, and this time the sound is sharper and quicker. The blade drops again and again, slicing through pale green layers. Thin shreds scatter across the board, while larger chunks are rotated and cut again. The cook works quickly but keeps control, shaving away the outer leaves and reducing the cabbage into manageable pieces. As the chopping continues, fragments collect into a loose mound. Occasionally, the knife lifts a chunk and trims it further, sending crisp leaves sliding across the surface of the block. The motion becomes almost rhythmic. Lift, slice, gather, and slice again. By the end, the once solid cabbage has transformed into a pile of bright green shreds ready for cooking. Meanwhile, another step unfolds at a nearby prep station. Cooked meat pieces are tossed inside a large metal bowl by gloved hands. The mixing motion folds the pieces together so seasoning coats every surface. The bowl rings softly against the table with each movement. Close by, a blue-gloved hand holds a chicken foot over a bowl while red scissors trim the tip. The scissors open and close with precise little snips. The foot rotates slightly in the hand as each claw is trimmed neatly. It is a careful cleaning step, often done before cooking, making sure the ingredient is ready for the pot. Fresh green onions arrive next. A bunch lands on the chopping block, and the knife returns with quick tapping motions. The blades move rapidly through the stems, producing fine, bright pieces that scatter across the board. Once chopped, the green onions are scooped up and dropped into a small plastic container, ready to be sprinkled into bowls later. Another ingredient appears on the cutting board, a white root vegetable sliced into thin, round discs. Each slice falls neatly to the side as the knife moves forward. These slices soon travel to the pot, where they slide into the steaming broth and begin softening immediately. A long-handled strainer lifts high above the pot, dripping broth back into the vessel. The motion checks what is cooking inside, bringing pieces briefly into view before lowering them again. Soon, dumplings bob at the surface, stirred gently with a long utensil so they do not stick together. Nearby, a separate pan produces crisp golden chips. A skimmer lifts them from hot oil and tips them into a metal bowl. The pile grows as another scoop lands on top, forming a crunchy topping that will likely finish a dish later. Fresh leafy greens are pulled from a pink tub and carried toward the stove. The vendor reaches over the counter, adjusting the pot and checking its contents again. A large round metal lid is lifted from a rack and held ready, though the pot continues to cook uncovered for now. With the base prepared, the final assembly begins. The vendor holds a bowl, already layered with greens, and turns toward the cooking area. She extends the bowl toward the stove, where the hot components wait. A ladle dips into the pot and lifts fragrant broth. The liquid pours into the bowl, filling the space between the greens and warming everything instantly. Next, noodles are scooped from a wok and dropped neatly into the bowl. Another bundle is lifted high for a moment before being lowered into place, creating a soft mound that absorbs the broth. A quick scoop adds more ingredients from the cooking station. Then toppings begin to arrive. From a metal tray, she sprinkles additional elements into the bowl, followed by handfuls of fresh greens that brighten the surface. Finally, the completed bowl is lifted and held up for a moment, the steam rising gently above the noodles and vegetables. It is the kind of presentation that invites a quick glance from passing customers. But the work continues. The vendor pulls on black gloves and returns to the prep table. With metal tongs, she transfers more ingredients into another bowl, building a second serving piece by piece. A utensil stirs and mixes the contents until everything sits evenly together. When the bowl is finished, she lifts it and inspects it briefly, checking that the balance of noodles, broth, and toppings looks right. Satisfied, she carries the bowl toward the seating area while customers wait. Near the front of the stove, she gestures lightly with her hands, as if explaining the dish. The toppings table sits nearby with extra seasonings, so guests can adjust the flavor to their taste. Some may add a little spice, others a splash of something sweet or sour, but the broth itself already carries the careful work of the entire process behind it. From the first careful cuts in the wooden bowl to the final lift of the steaming bowl, this tiny stall turns simple ingredients into a full street-side ritual. Every slice, stir, and blend quietly builds the flavor the customers expect. And when the bowl finally reaches the table, it carries the entire weight of the stall side